Rich Gussenberg.
Here.
Sean Kimball.
Here.
Derek Stevens Morley.
Here.
Jeff Solon.
Here.
Greg Rosenblatt.
Here.
Chris Gaddy.
Said he'll be late, but he's coming.
Okay. Megan Rockwell.
Here.
Dennis Ryu.
Here.
Chuck Neff.
Here. The Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have no one here from the public. Sarah, any correspondence?
No, I received no correspondence.
All right. Approval of the meeting minutes from January 30th. Do we have a motion? Second?
I'll second.
Right. Any discussion?
One, you got, yeah, check, okay. I have one minor typo on section 8. Stripping, it says stripping if topsoil is happening, should be stripping of topsoil.
Okay. Anything else?
I do.
Yeah.
Two as well.
Go ahead.
The first one, number 8, talking about the topsoil, says I asked how much and if it was taken out. The question was, why is there extra topsoil, not how much?
Okay. So why is there, did you get that?
In paragraph 8 where Ms. Purcell said she hopes to have the Norton GMP ready for that meeting. I think that's supposed to be North End, even though further in that same sentence it clarifies that it was for New North School.
Okay.
They get confused.
Okay. A few adjustments. Anything else on the minutes? Opposed? Abstained? Okay. Yeah. Chairman's report, did do a presentation to the town council the other night. Council members are quite pleased. Right along, and once again asked me to let you know how appreciative they are of all the time and energy of the committee. Couple of questions came up, one on the timeline, whether we were, on schedule, and would finish in June. I said July. They said, you think you're gonna get it in June? I said July. So we'll see what happens. A question regarding what's going on at the federal level and whether that potentially could have any impact on our reimbursement, and I went through the state process for reimbursement with that, and then some questions and comments regarding the tree removal at Norton and the fencing that had been raised there. Very positive meeting, and everything went very well. And then one other quick thing, Sean contacted our state representative, Liz Linehan, just questioning where we were at with the two issues that we had brought up to the council earlier. One dealt with the fact that the space standard reimbursement, we were looking for additional reimbursement on the space standards because we were slightly over for both buildings. And the other was something that Vin had raised a while back on some new reimbursement on pre-K through age 5 construction. And both of those, Liz Lanahan has put in the hopper, and it's on the list of things. The legislative process, who knows where it'll go from there, but at least it's there.
That's the Birth to Three program, right?
It's not just birth to three, no, it dealt with any construction of facilities that dealt with students up through age 5. Birth to three is really a separate program. But this dealt with, if you're building preschool programs, then there was an additional, I think it was 15% that you could get for reimbursement on top of whatever we're getting 50, this would give us 15% for that part of the building that's specifically focused on the preschool population. But because we were already in the hopper, we would not be eligible for that money, even though it's passed. Anyone new applying for it could get it. So we were looking for some legislation that would allow us to also be eligible for that money. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and just on that, I think you forwarded the email around, but the first one's House Bill 5747 and the second one's 5748 on those two issues.
So we'll keep an eye
Track
on
a
it and
little
see
bit.
what happens, yeah.
Will do.
And that's all that I have. This meeting was set up to be a very focused meeting with basically one item on the agenda, and that's to have Laurel walk us through the guaranteed maximum price, and make sure that our questions are answered. I don't believe that we would be taking a vote this evening. I know I haven't spoken to our attorney yet. I would want to make sure we do that before we actually take a vote. But the idea was for us to have an opportunity to be walked through the document, ask any questions we have, and then to have a couple of weeks to look it over and then vote at the next meeting. So with that said, Laurel, it's all yours.
Okay. So I did bring hard copies. You're gonna notice there's gonna be a slight variation versus the one that was sent out last night. First, I changed the date to today. I reduced some of our printing costs. That caused the whole GMP to come down, so that's why the number has been revised. And in Exhibit D, I added a clarification, but again, I'm gonna walk through minor tweaks. But I wanted to get something out to you guys last night, and again, I'll walk you through this. So 3 items that I have for review and discussion tonight are the GMP for North End. I also have a letter that I passed around from Young Developers. This is both projects, North End and Norton. Young Developers is the low bidder for both projects, and the letter is pretty self-explanatory.
That's roofing.
That's roofing. So it's the low bidder for roofing for both schools. So at some point, if not tonight, looking for you to make a motion to reject the low bidder based on our recommendation. Again, that's both schools. Another thing, and again, we'll get to it while we're going through the GMP, is if you saw in it on page 10, it was talking about being a rebid for tiling. So I'm gonna explain, I would be looking for you to reject all the tiling bids, not this one's specific to the low bidder, so that's like a state audit thing, you have to have the records for that for your file. This would be rejecting all tiling bids that we receive from North End and go out and rebid it. I won't rebid it right away because I'm still waiting for things to shake out at Norton. So we may end up wanting to do the same thing at Norton, reject those and bid the 2 of them together and just put all the tiling back on the street. And so the explanation for the tiling bids, you're gonna see, we have a really low bidder. There was confusion, they were confused, they missed quite a bit of wall tile on some hallways. So their price is like $548,000, the second bidder is $703,000. We know what he missed, the value is nowhere near that distance, so you don't wanna just have him withdraw his bid and then automatic award to second bidder. We think it's better to go out and rebid it.
You think we get a better price?
Yeah, definitely. So it would be to reject all the bids received for tiling for North End. You guys have that right. And then we would just rebid it once I get Norton straightened out. So I won't know that until I'm back here 2 weeks from now. And again, it's not gonna hold up anything. We're covered in the GMP for whatever the scenario is. It's just whenever the bids come in for tiling, we just go through saying, okay, let's just approve this one bid. And then the last thing is the GMP. So do you wanna tackle the rejection stuff first? You wanna come back to it? How do you wanna handle that before we dive into the GMP?
Any preference around the table?
Rejection.
Take a motion to reject.
Reject,
I'll make a motion to reject the tiling bids for North End School.
It's all tiling bids.
all tiling bids,
Optimal.
okay, and rebid the
Right.
tiling. Second on that?
Sure.
Okay, any other discussion?
I just haven't had opportunity to read it, so can we have 30
That's
seconds?
That's the other
roof
one, that's not the tile. The
that's
tile
what-
is,
They missed tile that they should have carried. It wasn't the clearest in the world, but that's okay, they missed it. And you don't wanna just go to the second bidder, cause it's too much money. I think it's too much money.
so we're gonna
I think
rebid,
you're better off.
rebid the tile altogether.
Right,
Any other discussion?
Does it have any impact on timeline?
no,
And if the same company bids again and it's still lowest, there's no problem with the
correct,
fact that
there's
we.
no problem, and it's a shame because he's a Cheshire bidder. Spectrum.
Oh.
I know,
Hopefully he'll bid again.
it's your Cheshire bidder, but he just can't absorb what he missed.
You're carrying, what do you think would be the difference?
I
That's
just
part of
slapped
the
in
allowance, yeah.
150, I was just trying to get to 700,000, just so that we're covered, it doesn't matter what comes in. Anything that's not spent goes back to you guys. That's why it doesn't matter,
Right,
you just have to reject the bids so I can rebid it.
it's, well,
Other discussion?
So, the reason we can do that with this one, or we're doing it with this one, and we didn't do it with the other, the specialty metals, I think it was, is because it's so much more.
The missed metals?
Yeah,
I didn't
like-
think about the missed metals,
Like, couldn't we have gone back and just said, well, we don't want just the one, let's rebid that as well?
well, that was North End.
So part of that is that
So what I'm
in
looking at
review,
is two withdrawals, right?
yeah, so in part of that is in review of the bids both at North End and Norton with Tecton. We did, the bids at Norton, were much more in line with what we would have expected and also much more in line with our third bidder on North. So to go out and rebid, you're likely gonna end up with the same numbers again. And so that's why we figured that we would not rebid that one.
And it's also more time critical because it takes a while, there are stairs, so they need to design all that, so they're a little more time sensitive than a finishes contractor.
So you're expecting that rebid and the tiles, we're gonna beat what the second number is right now?
Absolutely, yes. And we may go into the same boat with Norton. Norton's bids are much, much tighter for the tiling, so we may not have to do that, but I gotta make sure the low bidder is willing to do the tiling there as well. It was the same kinda. It was a muted, it's not like it was a miss, it's just that it wasn't as clear as it could have been, so.
I think it was clear.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
I said, I think it was clear on the documents and the second low bidder acknowledged that they carried it, no questions. There was a clarifying RFI regarding the tile on the corridor walls that matched all the information in the finish schedule and the finish plans. So in the scope review, the first low bidder did not acknowledge that what we were doing in the corridors on one wing was the same as we were doing it on the other. That was the clarification in the RFI.
Anything else?
I just have one more question. So
Yeah.
why can't we just award it to the one that's the low bidder if he bid it that way? He hasn't withdrawn his bid, right?
The Spectrum,
Yeah.
he doesn't have the tile, he'd have to withdraw his bid. I just said we can just rebid it.
Gotcha. So you withdraw it before we.
He will withdraw.
He would withdraw, yeah, he's not gonna honor his.
You can't honor that amount.
And we don't wanna be stuck with $700,000 bid, so
Right,
that's.
right, that's the only reason, and it's not a critical item you have to sign.
Right, yeah, it's a finishing item, so.
Right.
All right, all those in favor of the motion to reject all the tile bids and rebid it? Opposed? Abstention? Unanimous.
For the meeting minutes, maybe say bid package 2.09T, that's what it's called, tiling, bid 2.09T, tiling.
Okay.
You wanna deal with the roofer?
And, yeah, we have a letter in front of us detailing concerns with the roofing bid. If you haven't had a chance to take a look at that, I'll give you a second. We need a motion to reject Young Developers for 2.07R roofing
For both schools.
for both schools. Do you need two separate votes? You should. Yeah, you should.
Yes.
We've always had motions for each building
Two
separate.
separate projects, yeah, you're absolutely right, Rich.
Yep.
And it doesn't hurt.
So, do we have a motion?
Yeah. I'll move to reject the bids from Young Developers on the new North End School,
2.07R roofing.
two point oh seven R.
Second? Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? All right, and we need a motion. Oh, one abstention, I'm sorry, okay,
I have to abstain, I have him on the job.
okay, that's fine. You got that, Ron?
Yep.
Okay. And, we need a motion now for Norton. You wanna do the same
I'll-
motion?
I will move to reject the bid from Young Developers for the new Norton School.
Once again, 2.07R roofing.
Sorry, yeah.
Second.
Do
Sean,
we have a second, Sean? Second? Okay.
Trying to make up the lost engine.
Any discussion on that one? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstention? One.
Thank you.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
now,
Now you get into the nitty gritty. Alright, so, GMP, this was passed around last night, again, just a minor change, so dating it for today, so you don't get confused with which one we're looking at. So the first page is just pretty much mirrors, if anybody remembers when we did the phase one, it was kind of the same type of thing. This is just a AIA standard form. Flip over to page 2, at the top, you'll see what the value is. So we're at $68,791,561, which is about $5.4 million under the budget that was established for this project. So this is this is basically bringing closure to the value that we are within budget. And then I'll show you the cost summary of how we get to that number. The rest of this document, and it's 4 pages long, it's really just referring to the attachment. So the attachment is the support, where whatever's in here is the attachment is supporting it. You may note as far as the Article A2 date of commencement, we did January 10th, that's basically when we got started out there. And you will see at the top of page 3, substantial completion is July 16, 2026, which is basically 18 months later. Moving down that page
can you
again,
take 1 second to find substantial completion?
that's when you guys can start, that's basically when the warranties all start of the job. The architect has to give us a certificate that it's substantially complete, that you can start moving in and
Building
doing
inspector
what you need
has
to do.
approved, fire marshal has
Insurance
approved.
has to have it on your
It's a
motion.
magic
So
key.
what the substantial completion is for me, from a construction perspective is, we have substantially completed all of the contract work that is included in the scope of work in the GMP. At that time, I will reach out to Tecton and request a substantial completion letter from them. They will probably do their own walkthrough to confirm. As part of that substantial completion letter, I will have to give them a list of any remaining open items, i.e. punch list, commissioning, things of that nature, along with a value to that, those items. As part of that substantial completion, you will not have your certificate of occupancy at that point. That is your substantial completion. Certificate of occupancy is when you have all your sign-offs from all of the parties. So the fire marshal, planning and zoning, the building official, all of those members will sign off for the full CO. Typically, we always would like to have that full CO prior to the school starting. We do not need that for you to start doing FF&E, technology, anything like that. If there's any reason that we didn't get a full CO, most of the time you'll get a temporary certificate, and it's usually because the building official identified some issue that needs to be resolved. But our goal obviously would be to have the full CO prior to the start of school in 2026. But the substantial completion letter kicks off, as Laurel said, that's the date when all your warranties will start. So it's from that date, whether they a year, 2 year, 10 year, whatever the warranty period is, starts on your date of substantial completion. Now, Tecton will have to sign off and issue us a letter agreeing that the work is substantially complete.
And how much work would you anticipate going into the fall?
So, we will have, some, landscaping, work around where for the north end where the house is, because planting season starts August 15th. We can't plant during the summer. So as we're just, demolishing, abating and demolishing that house, and as we go to, finish out that area, we will have to start with, seeding and whatnot in August 15th and later. So that could stretch into the fall. Your planting season is, for this region is August 15th to October 1st. So during that period of time, we could be doing some landscaping work around that house area. Additionally, we cannot commission the heating system during the summer months. So the commissioning of the heating system will take place, typically we wait till about November 1st to get it cold enough outside, to be able to do the commissioning of those heating systems.
And do you anticipate much finishing work going on inside the building?
No, our intention is to have all finishes, all of that work completed with a minor punch list, as of July 16th.
Okay.
So with respect to the certificate of substantial completion, Ryan referenced a punch list and a completion list. Typically, the way those are worded in a certificate of substantial completion is that all warranties go into effect on the date of substantial completion, with the acceptance of all items that are listed to remain complete. Those items, the warranty goes into effect on the day of final acceptance. So at whatever time down the road there's a date that says punch list items are complete, that's when the warranties start for those items.
Same with the things that are not yet commissioned?
Yes. Yep.
The timeframe from substantial completion to CO is roughly. It depends on our people, I assume, to a certain
Typically,
extent.
very
Very
close.
short, couple of weeks to the 6 weeks prior to, which would be the start of school. But I mean, typically our goal is to get the certificate of occupancy, the certificate of occupancy, right around the same time as our substantial completion. Within a week or two of that, usually we want to, finalize all the punch list items. Ideally, we'll have a very small punch list or none at all, and then we can immediately go for the certificate of occupancy.
What does the substantial completion date for Norton look like relative to?
I believe it's the same date. It might be a day.
Same
I
date?
believe it's the same date. Yeah.
Same start date, same,
I
same
just wanted to
duration
make sure
for
we weren't
construction.
talking about 2 weeks later, because
No.
in my mind, I'd love to move 16th up to July 2nd if we could, just to give us additional time. I don't know if that's an unrealistic request or,
Typically, you'll be able to move in furniture, you'll be able to move in teachers' boxes, that sort of thing into the classrooms, earlier. So
before the 16th, you think?
basically, the 16th is when you take beneficial use and occupancy of the building. That's, I think, the legal term,
Yeah, I
term
mean, if I-
for substantial completion.
If we can get furniture in advance of that or other items, I mean, I know you're not like living there, but if we can get things through the door in advance of the 16th, I'll feel a lot better.
So based on our schedule that you'll see in this GMP, we do have a staggered finish throughout the building, right? So building D will fit, or the area D of the
Yeah.
building will finish first. Not everything is gonna finish immediately on the 16th.
Yeah,
Some
yeah,
will finish
it's a big
prior to
place.
that. So we'll
Yeah.
work with you and the principal and the team at the school, as well as Arcadis, to coordinate areas that we can possibly turn over to you earlier than the 16th. But the 16th is saying that everything is substantially complete in the entire building.
Okay.
And staff would be able to come in before that certificate of substantial completion? As parts of the
Usually-
building
I don't-
are available?
Usually, unless the building
Unless
official gives
it's
us, grants us a TC.
Yeah, right. I gotta think like we're not individually. You're not having like principals strut through the building,
No.
But
It's really just movers
if we can
or
move
FF.
furniture in as part of like the construction
Yes.
process, then at least we can have that going.
And typically, the classrooms are done early in the
Sure.
process. It's the bigger common areas that are usually the ones that are being finished right at the end. Some of the corridors and some of the more.
Site works and things like that.
Finishing off gym floors or all that sort of stuff?
You guys okay with doing multiple punch lists?
We usually accommodate the turnover of the schedule. Our only caveat is, and we said this on the other, on a kind of kickoff meeting with some, construction kickoff meeting with the entire teams, we just ask that the items are complete and the contractors have gone through their punch lists first. But building of this size takes multiple days to punch out anyway, so we accommodate the phase turnover. The one thing that we'll just mention, just so Jeff and Vin can get an idea of what we would expect for a furniture install duration. I'm coordinating right now, we're scheduling furniture, FF&E delivery and install in Madison right now for 85,000 square foot building. It's a 10-day install. So I would assume that this will be a 3-week install for furniture, so it would likely be, we can work, when we go through that process and go through procurement, we can work with the furniture vendor to kind of align with these turnover dates. So,
Thank you.
When the school start.
After Labor Day.
Oh,
That year we
September
pushed it
25th.
back. Not September 25th, but that's how bad rumors get started, so.
Sorry. I have no bearing on the school calendar.
Yeah, it's, after Labor Day. So, I mean, we did intentionally push it out. It is much later. It feels like September, I've heard it feels like September 25th. to some people.
I'm one of them people.
Yeah, it's not actual.
Alright, so we're moving beyond the substantial completion, so further down, going through Article 3, you're gonna see it's what specs, go refer to this Exhibit E, what are the drawings, refer to Exhibit E, so again, just go in, it's just referring back to this attachment, and on page 4, allowances, it says refer to Exhibit C, which we're gonna go through. Assumptions and clarifications, Exhibit D. Anything else that we're basing our GMP on? Well, there's the project construction schedule, which is actually the bid schedule that was issued to all our contractors, that's Exhibit F. And then, who are you hiring? Well, we have a trade contractor summary on Exhibit A3. So that's the 4-page document. So now we're gonna get through the attachment. So let's go to, there's an index or table of contents, these are all the things. There's gonna be a GMP cost summary, that's a 1-page, just gives you all the dollars. All the bid results, which you kind of have seen as I've come to the meetings, it's just keeping tallies of all the bids that we received. Exhibit A3, the trade contractor award summary, that's the big 11x17 chart that you've been seeing this whole time. Alternates you're gonna see is just the 2 alternates. The GMP allowances I will go through. The biggest meat, it really is the 4 pages of this Exhibit D, which we're gonna go over. And then the list of drawings is all just everything that was issued at bid time, plus all the addenda that were issued, and again, the project construction schedule is towards the end, and that was also issued while we're out to bid in addendum 2. Okay, so now, GMP cost summary. So this is kind of a merging, this is an all-in. It considers what we did for phase 1 as well as for phase 2. So I'm rolling over, I went back to the phase 1 GMP, I rolled over the phase 1 trade contract, so that will match what was in our phase 1 trade contract value. Phase 2 is gonna be coming from that chart on page 10, you're gonna see that dollar value there, is the 59,607,546. This includes the accepted alternates 1 and 2. CM allowances I will review, but this is a roll-up from Exhibit C, which is 705. You total them, again, from the Phase 1 GMP. Here's our general conditions, and now here's our Phase 2 staffing. So the direct reimbursables are exactly what was in our proposal. Our staffing went up slightly, and it's mostly to do with having a MEP, full-time MEP coordinator now. In our original proposal to you, it was 1 day a week for each project. We are thinking it would be a better approach to have this one person between the 2 jobs be full-time, which would be adding a day and a half to this north end and a day and a half to Norton. So we can get into it, there's some language about it, we can delve into the reasons why, but this is what that value is based on. I just wanna get through this cost thing. Advertisement and bid printing, I know Vin, you guys paid for the newspaper, this is for the minority publication that we had to advertise for the 2 schools when we went out to bid to meet CHRO requirements, the outreach, and then bid printing. That's the number that changed slightly from what I sent out last night. Here's the building permit fee, so we ended up writing a check for that.
We, that goes to the town,
Goes to
the
the state.
building? Oh,
They have,
that's
the
state.
town has to
State
collect it
That's
for
right,
the
we talked
state.
about that
You
once
can't-
before,
yes.
there were two
You still have to
numbers that-
collect that.
Okay.
Education.
Yep, all right. Cause that one I picked up right away, I thought the town had,
Yeah, so when we filled out the application, we had to give them a check.
okay.
Alright, so now we have that total. So now we're down to contingency, 3%. So it says CM contingency excluding phase one trade contracts and phase one CM general conditions and reimbursables, cause we feel we're past it, we don't need to carry contingency. So the math is, if you took the 64,841, you subtracted 2323475, as well as the 126, and you multiply that times 3%, that's where that number came from. So now we keep adding,
If you don't use all of that contingency, what happens to
goes
it?
back to you,
Goes back.
That's what I.
alright? And then bonds and insurance, these are these are rates straight out of the contract, they're based on the bottom number. Additional pre-con fee, again, there's some text language about that, but in our contract, we were supposed to be done with pre-construction services October 1, 2024. The proposal had the GMP being approved at the end of September last year. So this is getting us from October 1 to what I assume is through the end of this month, so I counted 5 months, and it's at $10,324, which again is in our contract. And then the CM fee is 1.55%, and the CM fee is on, the 1.55% is on the 67,690, you don't do fee on fee. So, that's where all the dollars came from, which, that bottom line is what's reflected in the AIA. And again, we'll go through where these numbers came from, but anybody have any questions on the sheet itself? So what's gonna happen is you have a schedule of values that you guys have been looking at from us for the phase one costs, and we're just gonna increase. So what was a contingency line before, maybe a 75,000, that number is now, is gonna get replaced by the 1871. And the contingency will go up, the fee line item will go up as well. And then all we'll start doing is listing down our trades, the rest of the trades, filling them in.
So which of, I'm just confused as usual. So under the general conditions, which of that is fees to OG? None?
Not under that general conditions line. All the fees are just in that one line.
The
at the
CM
bottom.
fee number
Now,
12.
can you explain the MEP coordinator and what the change in that was from why we had one thing and now we have something else, and where that, the fee for the full-time from part-time comes from, or where that is and how much that is? Sure, but there was a change in that, that's what I'm trying to understand.
As far as
That's
the
why I
dollar value, you want the backup for the dollar value?
Are we paying for a change in that?
Yes.
We're asking.
How much are we
Yes.
paying? Is I think a fair question, right?
That I don't
Just like
know.
any other change order?
The value to add the,
Doesn't seem like something that was presented to us as something
No,
that we would
it's-
like to do and would the
Right.
committee approve. It just
Correct.
seems like it's something that's saying, this is what we've decided as, that's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to,
yeah, no, we decided that just to actually include it in here so you could see the overall GMP value. It could be adjusted and discussed further, obviously. But we're carrying.
presented tonight.
It's been, yes. Yeah. So we are, to answer your question, Chris, it's probably about $130,000 to $140,000 more for additional staffing to have a full-time MEP coordinator between the two projects. So each project's gonna get each project is gonna get charged $140,000 roughly, for this individual to be on site full-time from now, for the 18 months that we're
so it's.
under construction.
But that's not additional, that's just the end result, right? So it's not a total $300,000 rough additional fee, right? There was already some incorporated? Or is that a
would be-
$300,000 add you're asking?
That would be an addition, that would be the add.
So Mark, you're going from 1 day a week to two and a
For
half
each-
days, 2.5
Correct.
days. So
Correct.
you're roughly doubling it, a little more than doubling it.
Yeah, we originally, when we submitted our proposal initially, when we did our general conditions initially, we had a MEP coordinator for 18 months for
roughly 1 day a week for each project. And we're asking, or making the recommendation, I should say, that we have a full-time, one individual full-time to cover both projects for the duration of construction.
What changed with the MEP where you need 2.5 times more coordination?
Nothing. I think we looked at a couple of things. One is the trades that we do have on site. This particular MEP coordinator that we would assign to the project has worked with these guys extensively just recently, actually at Farmington High School. So he's kind of familiar with things to look out for. The other part of this is that we have two schools being built simultaneously. So it gives him the ability to look at one school. If there's an issue there, or they do see something on one project, he could quickly go back to the other project and get it resolved. So I think it's just a little bit more overlap, a little bit more oversight on both projects. We thought it would be a betterment to the project and to the overall staffing that we're providing. But again, it's something that we do want to, bring to, and that's why Laurel's pointing it out, and she clarifies a little bit further in the exclusions, assumptions, qualifications, but, we definitely wanted to point that out. We're not trying to.
Well, we've had debates at this table over things that are $5,000 and $10,000. This is, 30 times that.
So we talked about this yesterday collectively because we got a preview on the GMP. And what I suggest is that we get something from ONG that shows what the breakdown is between what's in the original contract versus what you're proposing in this GMP, so that the committee could see the difference.
And I guess just from my point of view, this was decided recently, but the MEP systems haven't changed recently.
Agreed.
So
Agreed, Chris.
why was, and the one school, two school thing, back on your initial interview that we had before you guys were awarded the bid, we asked the question, is there any difference there? Is there any issue with that? And we were told, not a problem, we've got it covered, we know what we're doing, and that confidence that we had is partly why you got it. So now, and it raises the question to me is, do we also need to have now more people on for concrete inspection, more people on for the site work, or more people on for this coordinator or that coordinator or something else that was this, because this isn't a 10 or 20,000, this $300,000 change order is what we're getting hit with, is the way I'm looking at it. That's big, that's a huge change order. So that's why I think we just, the committee, the rest of the committee members can tell me if I'm speaking out of sorts here, but to me it seems like an explanation is a reasonable request. So it's kind of detailed, back up, let us know what was missed, or what wasn't missed, but what we misunderstood one way or the other, because that's a big change. Whether we're still on budget or not has no bearing, because if we don't need to spend it, that's more benches outside, or more whatever it might be, more equipment for this, that, or the other. That's our money to spend as we feel necessary. So I guess that's my question. What was gonna go wrong if we stayed with the way you originally had it? That kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's my same question, is we're adding the 300,000 of costs, and like, what do you anticipate it's going to save us? Like, we're investing essentially 300,000. It's got to pay itself back. How does it pay itself back? Like, what weren't you going to catch if you stayed with a day on there that you're going to catch now with, full time? That's going to justify the additional cost, I guess.
Yeah, it's hard to quantify that. It is, it is an extra staff member that's, again, on site full time, reviewing the mechanical, electrical systems being installed, and addressing issues as they, as they come up. It's really just an extra set of eyes for us out there.
From day one, when they're pouring foundations?
Yeah, because typically our MEP guys will review all the shop drawing submittals, anything mechanically or electrically related. So he's on the staff right now working on the projects. The question is whether we have the appetite to keep them on site full time between the two schools.
Yeah, so currently, right now, he's reviewing all MEP-related submittals prior to us sending them to the design team. He's also participating in all the both coordination meetings for the two schools, and working with the subcontractors, dealing with any questions or issues that they are bringing up related to those coordination meetings in the interim between them, each weekly meeting.
So,
Which will happen regardless of what the decision is made here.
I understand the venue in which I'm asking this, but to me, it almost seems like maybe what isn't being said, I could be wrong, I'm speculating here, is like holy crap, we didn't realize everything here, we're gonna pay a lot more attention to this than we planned. We better get somebody here a lot more time, because there's more to this than we thought. Which to me would be a fine answer. Okay, you caught it now, and you realize we gotta do more to make sure we're on target, we're on budget, and things work right. To me, that would be a great answer, and I would accept that without any further question. But I'm just having trouble, seems like it's a big pill to swallow, because, I guess my question without sugarcoating it is, why wasn't that there before? That's, I'm trying to be friendly, but at the same time, I think it's a lot of money, and that we could buy a lot of things with, and we fretted over a lot smaller things, and what in the plans did you realize needed that much more coordination than you did back at the 90% set? Right? Because we didn't do this at the 90%, we're doing it now, so what didn't Justin include in his set?
Oh, so that's where you're going. I was trying to figure that out.
Waiting for you to say, I'm not the MEP, so, no,
really.
but I'm trying, it's a fair question.
Yeah.
Justin, were you involved in this? Does Tecton have any understanding as to this, or was it a
I'll-
collaborative discussion?
I'll be honest with you, I've never had a problem with O&G and their mechanical coordination, so nor have I ever asked how much time their mechanical coordinators are spending on the site. I just know that they're always there, they're at every meeting that we have. There are currently weekly MEP-FP trade coordination meetings that the BIM coordinator and the mechanical coordinator are sitting on. So it's an added benefit to the project where we get all the designers, all of the trades in a meeting. The shop drawings are generated by those, but if you're asking me the distinction between a day a week and 2.5 days a week, I don't think that this was related to the quality of documents. If
No.
that's
Nor do
the
I.
question.
Nor do I.
Okay.
And that's definitely not the reason.
That's really what I was asking.
Yeah.
Did you
No,
guys
it's
see
just-
something
no.
that required it?
No.
And I was offering
has
the
to do with
designer
the
an answer,
contractors
an ability
who
to
we
respond to that if that was the accusation.
Can I ask, is this sort of like added insurance against problems throughout the
It's an
project?
additional set of eyes, so, and that's, it's somebody that's trained to look at your system, electrical systems, mechanical systems. And really having the same individual bounce from one project to the next, they'll be able to see what one trade is doing, one mechanical contractor is doing on one site versus the other site. If there is a problem that we do discover on one building, we have the same engineer on both, it probably, will be the same on the other project, right? That he can pick up on things like that.
Well,
And
in
the
the case of
original
mechanical,
plan-
it's the same mechanical contractor on both.
The original plan was 1 day a week.
Right.
So, they're here that 1 day and then 4 days goes by, a lot of work
Right.
can take
You're saying
place in a,
it's- in that plan, it's two different people or the same person?
It's gonna be the
one
same
day?
person.
But in
that-
both scenarios?
Yes. Yeah, typically we would,
So before we had one guy that was going one day there, one day at the other one.
3 days
Coming
somewhere
back
else.
3 days later, one day.
yeah.
Now he's gonna be back and forth in between the two.
Right.
You keep saying he's gonna catch stuff that, it's an extra set of eyes. It's not just, it's the same set of eyes. He's just there
Yeah.
more.
He's there more
yes.
often.
Yes.
So what weren't we going to catch though?
Well, I think
I'm
maybe reading between the lines a little bit with what Laurel said, but it sounds like how this is shaking out with who we're hiring, who the low bidders are, might require some additional oversight. Is that fair?
Totally agree.
And I supervise and work with a lot of people who are working multiple jobs in different places, and they are not as consistent with what they catch because they're looking at more things. So I do see the value in what you all are saying. I would love a little more detail about maybe some of the details of what they might be looking for or what they might be catching. But I really, I think it's really worth considering this as a group because I can see, like I can see in the future how this could really benefit us.
I see it as an insurance policy. I'd rather catch things during construction than find out there's issues after the fact, and have to go back and repair things. I think you have to give us some information as to what are the areas of concern that you would have that would require more supervision. But just being there one day a week doesn't seem a lot. It seems like an awful lot could go on in the other 4 days that things could be closed up and you wouldn't see everything.
One of the things we had talked about doing as well is if it would make it a little easier to swallow the added cost of having this individual there is that we would, reduce our construction contingency, our CM contingency that we're carrying here to 3% down to cover those costs.
So that sounds good.
So, again, because, and as far as, the operations side of building these schools, I'd rather have them more oversight on the sites than less. And I think it's
I don't
betterment
disagree, and
for the
Rich, I would be happy if you had 35 people there all day, 24/7, that are experts in nails, screws, screwdriver, to oversee everything. And in fact, I think that's their job, to make sure it's built right. It's their job to have whatever oversight is necessary. That's what they promised us, is that they were gonna build per the plans, and we know we've got a good set of plans. We've gone through that a lot, and we've asked that. So, I'm on board with the oversight, it's required. I'm just looking at it as it's a $300,000 pill that the taxpayers have to pay, me being one of them. We weren't notified that we were gonna have to pay until right now, and I just look at it and say, why did we find out? And if it's because of, perhaps has to do with the particular bidders, maybe a particular low bidder shouldn't have been what, and I was reminded, I asked the question, I says, are we okay with these low bidders? Remember that I asked that, and I was reminded, well, maybe not the best question I asked that. So I did ask if O&G is happy with these bidders, if they are, I forget how I worded it, whether it was like people you have experience with and and you're confident with that they're gonna do a good job, and the answer was yes. So if you're happy with them and they're gonna do a good job, but only if we really watch them and the town pays another $150,000 per school, that becomes a loaded answer. And it becomes an answer that really wasn't the answer. If that was the answer that night, we might have said, well, maybe then this low bidder, they really are $150,000 off because we have to pay that for having a watchdog. I don't know. I'm just trying to understand that, because I agree with oversight. Like I said, the more the better. But really, that's kind of what you're hired to do to begin with, right?
Agreed.
All right, so can you get us more information that we can send out to the committee?
Sure.
I mean, we can go round and round on talking about this, but if you get us some additional information that we can send out to the committee over the next couple of weeks.
Sure.
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay, so any other questions on the cost summary sheet? So now
The 5 months, so you're
Yes.
carrying 5 months for additional pre-construction.
yes,
So that's from October 1st.
yep, through
So-
February,
We're saying we should have had a GMP when?
end of September.
End of September of that. So like, if I see that, are we 5 months behind on the whole project right now? Were you initially anticipating
We
that
were
we'd
supposed to be done a
in-
lot earlier, right?
Well, were we supposed to be done in February of 2000?
No, but it was like early spring. Originally it was early spring.
Or it wasn't like 5 months, right?
No, I get squeezed here, man.
It's not getting squeezed, I'm just asking a question. It's like essentially saying we're 5 months behind, but we're not really 5 months behind, because we were never planning on being done in winter of 26, right?
Yeah, I'm just saying
Original
contractual.
completion was March of 26.
Right.
The end of March, April, say April 1st of 26.
Okay.
I remember there were state issues with review. that were pre-Christmas, that we ended up deciding to start post-Christmas as a result, because we weren't gonna have people start a job on December 20th. So it's a little bit of time, but, you know, we still are running a little slow. I mean, that was my question about moving the date up, you know, to July 2nd. Because in my, you know, when we started the process, was thinking March, whatever, is also a lovely runway. And the runway's not quite as long anymore, so, you know, wouldn't say getting anxious, but that's what I'm paid to do, you know, kind of prepare for the worst. So.
My point was just that I haven't heard that we were 5 months behind, like, ever, in the schedule. But to see that we're actually 5 months on the paper, I mean, that's different than I think we've talked about all along.
No, I think Rich has asked almost every meeting, are we on schedule? And the answer's been yes, so.
We've been on schedule when we were hired, we started with a pre-construction schedule. I just think the dates were always off a little bit, even from when we got hired.
Hold on. There are two things that we're talking about. We're talking about the original schedule that was in the RFPs that everybody bid on.
Right.
And then we're talking about the revised schedule when all the project teams came on.
Correct.
That schedule, from the beginning of all the conversations, had the substantial completion for June. Right? Every single schedule that
Right. That is
the
true.
committee has reviewed, starting in schematic design, had the substantial completion in June, acknowledging that original RFP schedule was not needed to be modified.
And that's the date I
What-
mentioned, the
What
April-
you're really
April
talking
1st.
about, so from what O&G had contractually bid on, according to the RFP schedule, yes, is different than what we are
We've
now.
been
So,
following all along.
so the 5-month delay is not, it's not new information. What we're actually talking about is substantial completion moving from the June 2026 timeframe to July 2026 timeframe due to the delay in some of the state reviews and getting out to bid basically a month late.
And also adding to that we were supposed to start in October, so we lose October, November, December, you're starting, so that's 3 months, plus the 1 month, we're going from June substantial completion to July substantial completion, so that's 4 right there.
It was just, the dates that were in our original contract we were never on that schedule.
I think that's the answer.
That's
what
the
I'm
one.
saying is the pre-construction was based on a previous schedule that wasn't the
That we got
actual.
hired for.
The actual schedule that we've been talking about is still June, July, we're not.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
That is correct.
And I just looked up the original one, yeah, and it shows March.
And I would acknowledge too that there's nothing, I don't think that the people in this room have done to alter that schedule. I mean, it was really at the feet of, the state.
It's the process,
And their
right?
process, so I think everything here has run very smoothly in terms of the time frame.
We had a number of conversations.
We did.
tonight, several crying on each other's shoulders about getting approvals for sole source bidding. Yeah.
All right, can I move off the cost summary now? Mm-hmm. So the next page is 2 through 9 are just the bid results again, just kind of keeping everything together.
Have we approved all of these?
No, because that's what this GMP is for. This is everybody that you didn't approve so far.
Okay.
So it's all the stragglers. I think there's like 11 left. So these are the bid results. And then page 10 is what you've seen before. I just took off all that stuff along the bottom about how much we were under budget. I also took off, I was carrying like a CM allowances line there, so I took that off. So these are the contractors that will be working on the project, except for where I scratched to be rebid. So these are all the people that we're hiring, that we haven't hired yet.
But that's everybody.
That's everybody. And you'll see we've got alternate 1, alternate 2, total of the alternates. Okay?
I have a question on the second sheet there, you still show the young developers like in the final line, but not on the summary sheet, they're out, right?
Yeah, I took them off. I didn't say anything about them being disqualified or anything. I just, cause that's the bid, they are the low bidder, we're just throwing them off, we're not hiring them. So Greenwood is who's on there instead.
And then for the to be redid, the tiling,
Yep,
it still has the 548.9 in the
It ha-
contract, you're gonna put that as actual 700, you said?
She's got another
I've
amount
got
in
it on
there
the
later.
CM allowances where I'm just gonna increase it a little bit, cause at the time, like, I didn't know he was not gonna do until like this afternoon, by then I've already printed everything.
Chuck, I think page 12.
Yeah, so we're gonna keep going. Alright, now page 11 is the 2 alternates. There's nothing that was rejected, there's nothing that's pending, those are the only 2 that are on this job. So we're showing, now when we get to Norton, everybody remembers, Norton had an alternate 1 and 2 that were accepted. We had all those asbestos alternates,
PCB.
remember all those, yeah, PCB and asbestos alternates. So that one's gonna be a lot
Much bigger.
longer, and there will be rejected ones, I'll put in, and those are the lower price ones, so this will get a little more complicated for North End. But North End's nice and easy, there's only 2.
What page is that?
Page 11. Now, page 12 is the the GMP allowances. So, there's 5. To answer Chuck's question, the bottom GMP hold amount for rebid is the 150, just to try to pump it up to 700 in that neighborhood. I'm just trying to capture the cost. So number 1 is to incorporate phase 1 bulletin 001 PR for phase 1 added surge protection and phase 2 drawing changes electrical revisions to phase 1 electrical equipment. So there's been some things going around these documents, and I don't know if it's final yet, but I think
It is not.
we're thinking it's around here.
So, the committee recalls, you approved the surge protection to be billed against the subcontractor, phase 1 electrical subcontractor's allowances. For each project, they had a $20,000 allowance. I don't remember the exact number, but it was between $6,500 and $7,000 is what was approved for each job. So that reduces both of those those allowances to about 13,500, let's say 13,000, just for ease of numbers. On the north end, due to some of the electrical changes that happened in the bid, phase 2 documents that impacted the phase 1 submittals, and contract, requirements, there is, worst case scenario, a $36,000 hit to or add to the phase 1 electrical contractor. We're meeting next Wednesday with Tecton, Colaronin, the vendors and A&R Electric to finalize this and to get that number to what is actually an appropriate cost. This 25,000 takes into account the 13,000 that's left, plus 25,000 gets us to about 38,000. It's plenty of money to cover any costs that are gonna be potentially incurred once we finalize all those changes and the value of those changes. So that's what this is to cover. So this is for the north end. On Norton, it was much less. It might end up being a net credit back to us on that. Again, we don't know that 100%, and so we're working that out with everybody next Wednesday. And I'll have more information once we get through that meeting, and they can offer up new revised quotes.
And let me just preempt, all of these require your approval. These will be they'll have to be a PCO, some sort of a
Right.
document you guys will have to approve. I'm just trying to capture the money for now, so it's in the GMP.
Before we
And
spend it.
that's why they're
Placeholder.
round numbers, they're just estimates at this time. You guys need to approve all of these costs.
And anything we
Just
don't
ten.
spend at the end of the job comes back to the town.
Alright, so
And
that's.
if it's over the amounts that are here, like say it comes in higher, it comes out of our contingency,
Yes,
right?
except for 3, I have a line about that later on. So 3 is gonna be out of our contingency if there's any overages, but 1, 2, 4, and 5 would be from you guys. And any unders of anything come back to you guys. Alright, 2 is just a big slush description of everything to do with utilities. So anything that, we've got a utility pole or poles that need to be relocated at North End. There's another one that needs to be relocated at Norton. We already relocated one at Sharon. At Norton, we've got to relocate one on Route 42. So both of these jobs have utility company poles being relocated,
Is
so.
it 30,000 per pole?
I think we said 22 or 23, something like that. It was, we had
So,
20,
yeah, again, we're trying to make sure that we don't have to come back to and
Yeah.
say, in addition to the allowance that we've exhausted, we have to now do a change order to this committee, and then you have to approve that change order. So if that utility pole came in at 22 or 21 or 15, then that 15, and again, this is more to show you how we got to the $450,000 number. It's just kind of to ensure that we are not coming back for additional change orders.
I think this was more about my ignorance of
Yeah.
how much
Oh,
utility
yeah.
poles cost to move.
So, yeah.
I thought maybe that's all of them.
Yeah. So the one on Sharon Drive came in at about
They
14,000.
just pick it up.
But that was a smaller, easier pole to relocate. The one out on the main, North Brooksville has a lot more wires on it, has a lot more, so we're assuming there potentially is more cost from Eversource.
That makes sense.
Unfortunately, you won't know until Eversource gives you the quote after you ask them to,
Sounds like Eversource.
so.
What is the temporary power? You guys didn't figure a temporary utility
this is
service?
for building the building. This is the consumption, the bills,
Oh,
power bills.
Oh,
Yeah.
not for the
Oh.
service. Oh,
No,
no.
oh, that's service too. The new permanent utility services, cause they'll charge for the transformer.
No,
They-
I'm talking about the temporary, the construction service,
not the
temporary,
trailer,
yeah, it's not, gotcha,
No.
okay.
It's just consumption.
That's fine, that's the bills.
Yes, the
If
bills,
we have,
the
yeah,
bills.
if we have, the bulk of that 300,000 you're seeing is gonna be heat. It's gonna be
Temporary
fuel to
fuel.
heat.
You answered the question.
The building.
Yeah, yeah.
Then the new permanent utility services and connection fees, including sanitary and utility disconnect fees, it's whatever Eversource is gonna charge, or the, Water Protection Agency, whoever they are, Water Pollution Control Authority.
Yep.
Whatever their charges are, so that's what that is based on.
Yeah, so for example, we just got the water bill for the vault at Norton. We had budgeted 40,000, told the subcontractor to carry an allowance of 40,000. The bill came in at about 46 and change, so that 6,000 would come out of this allowance, so that again, we're not coming for a subcontractor change order. You're not getting hit with their overhead and profit on that, it's coming out of this allowance number.
Alright, and then 3 is, now these are the items that we picked up as we were doing our scope reviews. So, furnish and install roof curbs for kitchen walk-in cooler and freezer condensing units. So there's a condensing unit detail on the food service equipment, and I didn't assign it to anybody, so that's a miss on me. So I just put in 7,000. There's exterior cornice trim at the tower. The material, we didn't assign it to anybody, so we're putting a value in for that. And then, based on our scope reviews, we were talking to our, air vapor barrier contractor about the damp proofing. The timing of the damp proofing is like right now, and we didn't buy from him heating the foundation walls if we needed to install the damp proofing. So this may not be needed at all, but if it is, at least we have something there for it, because he didn't include it. We didn't tell him to. So these are again, these all need to come to you for approval, they're just estimates, estimated values, so that's a total of 55,000. Post FF&E delivery touch-up, this is kinda like painting after your,
Painting, patching, maybe
Jeff,
dings in the walls.
when your guys come in and you're dinging stuff, we have an ability to go back out and touch up after people whack stuff. Again, just an estimate, and then we've explained already the rebid of the 150, so the 548 up to, the 150 gets us closer to the second bid, so again, it's just to protect the budget as it is. So that's the 705 that was carrying through on the front. Alright, so now, what's left is these 4 pages. Again, everything that's after that is just the list of drawings, you can confirm them for yourselves, the addenda, the schedule, if you wanna look at the schedule, otherwise, the rest of our time is just going through these 4 pages. Alright? So, start with number 1. GMP includes state education portion of the general building as well as the MEP permit fees being assessed by the town. I know the town isn't assessing town fees, but they have to collect the education fee. So we have
It's
that
page
included.
13.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm like, I'm not on the right page.
2, we're sales exempt, we're sales tax exempt. 3, these are things that usually are done by the owner. Environmental testing associated with abatement activities, that's really to do with the house before it comes down. Any sort of environmental testing that's there, moving, relocation planning, any third-party inspections. Again, Arcadis is already taking care of the special inspections. Building commissioning, you have a commissioning agent. There's no indoor air quality testing. We will coordinate activities as needed. 4 is just a reiteration of what you already saw for that fee, or that $450,000. So it's just telling you again what all this stuff is, all to do with utility services. And again, it's not gonna be spent without your permission. 5, we've included filling the emergency generator with fuel one time. Fuel, because that's what we bought. We told the electrician to give us 1 tank of fuel. Fuel consumed during testing and for ongoing periodic operation during construction will not be replaced. Fuel costs for running the generator after substantial completion of the new school building shall be the responsibility of the owner. So we're gonna fill it the first time, and that's 1 fill. 6, we already talked about the advertising cost for the minority publication for the bid. We've included the cost of printing the bid documents. 8 is we are excluding FF&E. So unless there's something specific on the drawings that we're to provide. So we don't have any furniture, furniture, desks, that sort of thing. We're gonna inform the owner of areas that are ready for delivery. We're not responsible for unloading, installing, checking, waste management, or accepting it. Any sort of stuff that needs to be plugged in, if it requires rough-in, we've included that as long as it's on the bid documents. Showing that it's gonna get plugged in.
Go ahead.
No, go.
Like the car chargers in every room.
You're not participating in FF&E.
No.
We will participate in the sense of we're talking here about the rough-in for it. We will coordinate with Tecton when they're in their vendors, so that we make sure that any rough-in that needs to be done that's shown on the bid documents, and we coordinate with so if there's desks that have outlets in them, right, and we need to make sure that the rough-in is done so they can tie that desk into that rough-in, we will coordinate with Tecton on that to make sure that that is located properly and whatnot. As far as FF&E, we'll work with them to coordinate when they can come in and whatnot, and we'll work with their vendors as far as assisting in, directing them, as far as how to get through the building, where they can, areas that they can, start in. But as far as like unloading the trucks or taking care of all the, packaging that's there, that's what we're excluding.
Will that be included in the FF&E bids?
So the FF&E, the way that the FF&E is gonna be procured, it's either gonna be procured off state contract. If in aggregate the thresholds are below $100,000, you're allowed to solicit from state contract vendors. If they exceed $100,000 by OGA guidelines, they need to be bid. So things like interactive displays, network switches and infrastructure likely will need to be bid just due to the volume. In both cases, bid documents and state contracts, there will be installation that's provided by the vendors as part of that. So we have to go through the same process that we did for the construction to show drawings, to have technical specifications. So each vendor will provide an installation, delivery and installation as part of their
Putting together
bid.
furniture.
So that includes furniture
Unloading
that's
the
coming
trucks, all
in
that.
a truck, unloading the truck, delivering it to the location, unboxing it, putting it together, and putting it in the locations that we show in the drawings.
So the school district doesn't have to provide staff for that at all?
No, we're about ready to start a kind of design process for FF&E and technology. The one thing that we're likely gonna be more closely aligned is for the networking of the building. We'll need to have a discussion about, typically, districts wanna have more ownership over the programming and the kind of commissioning of network equipment to make sure that it's to their standards, but we've had other districts that we hire that. We hire that vendor, that integrator, that's part of the network installation. So.
Who's doing traffic control during FF&E deployment?
Who's doing traffic control during FF&E deployment?
Usually our
It's gonna be our-
superintendent, takes care of that,
It'll be Arcadis too.
yeah, just
Okay.
the field team, so.
Cause that's one person in the field.
Well, I think at North End, your traffic control is just gonna be kind of coordinating where they bring the trucks on site. We're such a large site at North End, we'll have plenty of room for the trucks to park and stockpile. And if there's multiple trucks, they can, we'll have parking lots for them to locate in and whatnot.
Yeah, I'm more
Norton will
concerned
be-
about missing parts and who does and what to do with them.
Missing parts,
Oh, there's always missing parts.
that,
Yeah.
that would be Arcadis and
Yeah,
Centertown
so,
would be.
so that's typically the, for instance, we're working with Meteor Education right now on setting up this very same process in another district. They typically will have a foreman that coordinates all of, part of their installation costs are making sure that there are no missing parts. We do a punch list as well as once everything's installed, but typically, you don't wanna have a three-legged desk,
Right, so, no, my point is, you're not, Tecton is not gonna be there during deployment.
we typically try and be there, but I don't think that forgive the expression because it sounds cold, I don't think we own being there, 8 hours a day during deployment, but I'll check and get back to you.
What about like protection during the FF&E stuff? Do you guys, like, what's the floor look like? Does it have, like paper down still, or is it the finished tile all polished up?
It's,
And
so generally FF&E takes place after our final cleaning. So yeah, so there would be, limited to no protection on the floor. We would have, all the floors would be, VCT would have been waxed and washed and waxed and completed. So when we turn over an area of space, we're 100% done in there. So, I would defer to Rich and
I was thinking like
Justin.
corner protection and stuff too, because
Right.
you're always gonna think in corner, but
Well,
is
that's why
that just
I
what
have
your
that
allowances?
25,000.
That's what the allowance is for, because, even when you do have corner protection and whatnot, you never know when they're sliding it up against the wall or whatever. You could get some scuffs, you could get some dings. Again, how that gets handled between Tecton's vendor and this committee, we have to pay our subcontractors to fix that. And so we can't go after Tecton's vendor, we don't have a contract with them. So that's why we have the allowance in there, so we have a means to pay them. And then if there's some means to recoup that money from the vendor because they caused some damage, I don't know how that works, so that would be, I would defer to Justin on that if that happens.
Just to be clear, it's not our vendor, it'll go, it will be the town's vendor going through a public process that you guys will approve the vendor as well. We help coordinate the installation. But yes, try as they might, and it's always an argument in the field, like, I think your mechanical guy did this. No, I think your furniture guy did this.
It's always the construction's fault.
Right.
Fingerprints are always insufficient.
Alright, number 9, GMP includes the cost for fire alarm, temperature control, other low voltage communication systems, including but not limited to telephone, data security, public address, local sound systems, everything that's indicated in the documents. What's not included is network server systems, projectors, projector mounts, monitors, displays, and associated mounts, and digital signage. Those are all excluded, and usually that's that's your that's your technology. That's usually part of your technology. So the monitors, displays that Justin was just mentioning.
Is there any anticipation that any monitor or any projectors would require some sort of structural attachments and things, or that we would need a structural engineer for?
I think the only projectors that we have are short throw, both at the stage and in the media center. So I'll review, but I think we were deliberate in that. The reason being is when you have such a long throw, like say in a gymnasium, you can never get that little vibration out of it. So we've started to, we have basically a double front stage at both locations with a projection screen in the middle, and we have short throw projectors on either side, so we can project onto the screen. So, but I'll check.
As someone who deals with projectors a lot, I don't have any concerns based on what I've seen.
And generally, things like the smart boards and things that go on your walls, we'll coordinate with them, and I'm sure there's wood blocking called for in the contracts, and we'll do the roughing, have everything there for them in the wall, so they just have to take it from that point out.
Yeah, they gotta install the mount too. Alright, and then 10 is very similar to the FF&E, it's the technology, it's all the computer equipment, all that other stuff. Again, we're gonna inform the owner when areas are ready. We're not responsible for unloading, installing, checking, or accepting technology. Okay, one down, there you go.
I'm sorry, I just wanna amend my response to Chris. We do have the new, interactive, projector in the gym. That is coordinated as part of the installation within the structure of the gym. But in terms of conventional projectors, I think my original answer stands.
Number 11, acceptance of GMP constitutes acceptance of our recommended lowest responsible bidders as listed in the trade contractor award summary. This is how you are in effect de facto approving everybody else instead of doing the letters. GMP is based upon trade contractor's acceptance and execution of contract with ONG to perform the work. Withdrawal of a bid by a trade contractor listed within GMP will require an adjustment to the GMP to accommodate next lowest responsible bidder's contract amount. So we're proposing all these low bidders, we're assuming that they're still willing to execute a contract with us by the time we get there. Number 12 says when, where a specification includes a basis of design product, as well as a list of approved manufacturers. So a lot of the specifications have your basis of design, and then it says, or you can provide them from one of these other manufacturers. It's assumed that the list of these other approved manufacturers will not require different or additional infrastructure supports, electrical speed, sizes, power requirements, or modifications to any other building components other than what is shown on the contract documents. So this is really just, we're assuming that the other or equals aren't gonna be a substantial change to the structure or anything else. 13 is just a reiteration that we've included the cost of alternates 1 and 2, with that total cost to be performed by the acoustical for alternate 1, and site work is alternate 2. 14, Exhibit C indicates GMP allowance items that are included in the GMP, except as provided for in the owner-SAM agreement. None of these allowances will be expended without prior approval by the owner. The owner is responsible for all costs exceeding the established allowance amounts for all allowances listed in Exhibit C, except for GMP allowance number 3, scope of work clarifications. Any increases to items included in allowance number 3 will be funded from the CM contingency. The next one is 15. Unless specifically included in the technical specification section and signed to be performed by a trade contractor, GMP excludes the CM engaging a qualified testing agency and the testing of materials, components. So if you go to these specific spec sections, it'll say the owner shall engage, the owner shall engage. So it's to do with, like, it's a check on our construction and our work, and it's really just testing the envelope. So did we say that we had that? That's all set or not all set with the commissioning agent, the envelope testing?
Oh, the envelope testing, well, like I said, we're gonna need to get a air and moisture barrier testing consultant, so that's not part of what the commissioning agent is doing.
Alright, 16 says that the general permit for stormwater discharge waters from construction activities has been transferred to the site contractor, that's Richards on both jobs. They're responsible for complying with the permit during construction. GMP is based upon contractual and specified guarantees and warranties being initiated at the time of substantial completion and or beneficial use and occupancy of the new school building. Guarantees, warranties of site work and landscaping areas will be established in conjunction with those particular completion dates. So just because you have it for the building doesn't necessarily mean we have all the warranties starting for the site work until they're done. And that's plantings and lawns and everything else. Alright, 18. The GMP includes work that's listed as the bid documents in Exhibit E, with the exception of Phase 1 Bulletin 001. GMP excludes all costs associated with any sketches, bulletins, ASIs, and or any other revisions that were issued subsequent to the bid document. So I know things are getting underway. The only thing we've captured so far in this is this Phase 1 Bulletin 1, unless anybody else is aware of something. 19, the GMP includes construction phase CM fee, that was at 1.55%. GMP includes additional pre-construction phase fee for the extended duration of pre-construction services from October 1, February 28, calculated at that for 5 months. Okay, 20. The construction time frame that our CM general conditions and reimbursables are based on is from January 10th through July 16th. That ties into what we did with the AIA, followed by abatement and demolition of the house, so that's gonna happen afterwards. Commissioning, completion of site restoration and landscaping, and contract closeout. Additional CM general conditions and reimbursable fees will be billed beyond this time frame if additional time is added on through delays not caused by the contractor or additional scope of work. Obviously, the impact time. Alright, so that means, they gotta bag out of the house at some point. 21, okay, so this is specific to North End, cause Norton may have a different issue. GMP includes all topsoil remaining on site. We believe there's not gonna be any issues here with any sort of excess topsoil. Costs for off-site disposal of polluted or contaminated soils, if needed, would be coming out of you guys. So we didn't buy that yet, we just told the contractor everything can stay on site. So should that change for some reason, or while they're digging around, they discover something, that's not accounted for right now. And this is like any sort of bad stuff. 22, the owner shall provide Jeff, oh, he's gone, where'd he go?
He saw
This
it.
one's for
Yeah,
him.
his section.
This one's for Jeff. The owner shall provide one suitably sized,
You turn to Vin.
securable room upon completion of the new school building, cause he needs to get out of the house, for use as the CM field office and contractor meeting location. Also dedicated sufficient parking shall be made available to the CM contractor, for CM contractor use after the new school is completed. OPM shall make their own arrangements, cause they gotta bag out too, with the owner for working space to be provided for their use after the date of substantial completion. So there's, where did he go? Did he come back? So we need a room.
Yeah.
Well, if you do a good job, you get a better room.
With a window or without a window?
Well, a good job, you go up higher, better than if you're in the boiler room, guys.
I had a window in my last one, but that was about an 8x8 broom closet with a window
There
in
you
it.
go.
So.
There'll be someone that can be on the roof.
Andrew just volunteered.
Yeah, I live right there, so if you, I got a little.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I heard Jim, Vin
Oh.
talking about a better room. They need a room. Got a view of a graveyard from my office, so.
Yeah, we were just saying, I said, Jeff, number 22, the owner, we need a room for when we get out of the house. We're gonna come into the new school just to finish operations there.
Okay.
23, cost of CM bonds and insurances will be billed and paid in full at the commencement of the construction time frame. The general conditions staffing, as shown, that's the 1,920,000, will be billed as a lump sum amount, or whatever the number ends up being, whatever. Will be billed as a lump sum amount of 106,000. We just divided it up by over 18 months, starting in January 2025. And here's where we say, this amount includes a full-time on-site MEP coordinator, time split between North End and Norton to assist in MEP trade contractor coordination and or resolving MEP issues for the two projects.
So
And I know you want further explanation.
who else do you have?
That's added.
No, not added, that's part of the staffing.
There's senior PM,
Yep.
Yep.
PM, super, and project engineer.
Okay, and those are
Full-time,
And-
on-site.
And
Yeah, and then part-time safety,
Yep.
MEP coordinator, that we talked about, bin manager, contract administrators,
project exec.
project exec, yeah.
Okay, I'll just keep going through. 24, the direct reimbursables amount of 144,150 includes, well, these are things with the house, so that's in that. Well pump replacement, there's boiler and building maintenance, cause I think they had to get some boiler maintenance done. Fuel oil for heat and electrical consumption for the CMOPM field offices located 1180 Jarvis Street, and will be billed as actual, so everything that's in the 144, 150, they've gotta show you the cost for. Cost less than or in excess of this amount will be credited to, funded from the owner's contingency, so anything that goes, So it's really just the operational costs of the field office. Does that answer your question, Chris? You were asking about the electricity or something before, about the
Yeah,
field
the
office.
answer you guys gave answered the question.
Okay,
You said it was the
but
bill.
this is our field office. Okay.
And that number's slightly heavy because if you recall, we did have a temporary trailer in our original reimbursables in that line. But since we're using the house, that rental cost is not hitting the project, so I would expect that as long as the house
Yeah.
stays up and we don't need to replace the roof or something in a year, or, then, there's a portion of that will definitely be coming back to the,
Well, this is
back
over
to the project.
So we're gonna have to replace one of the toilets, but that's,
This is over 18 months.
yeah.
Yes.
It's the life of the job.
Yeah.
It does,
I mean, it's gonna be
whatever.
heavy on the front end because you're gonna be putting all the furniture in there and so forth.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
but
Well,
that's
still
why it's not
winter.
it's not a per lump, it's not a lump sum or anything, it's just as it's getting expended.
Laurel, I thought that number, I was asking because I thought that was the electrician's temporary electric service for doing the work at the site. So I misunderstood what it was.
Okay.
Completely misunderstood, so thank you.
All right, 25, temporary security fencing and gates and temporary site lighting are included in the GMP. So we have security measures built in that we've purchased from the trade contractors. But if you need a guard, watchman, or additional security services, we don't have that. So unless it gets crazy. There's just this add alternates, number 26, on this drawing, TN 0.01, there was 2 IT add alternates that were just there, so just making sure that nobody was looking for it, 'cause
They had to do with devices installed. Those are intended to be part of the technology budget, so.
and we never got pricing for it. 27, GMP excludes FSC certified Doug fir timber framing and FSC certified laminated wood decking. So the Doug fir timber framing is your exterior canopies, and the laminated wood decking is the wood decking that you see inside that will be exposed, cause it's not available as FSC certified. So we're saying that FSC certification is gonna be waived for these materials, cause
FSC stands for Forestry Stewardship Council. Okay, so it has to do with like green harvesting
So
processes.
the material itself is available, it's just
Yes.
not certified green.
Yes.
right. And so we need to account for that. We had a spec section called sump pumps. It was included, but there's none shown on the drawings, nor are they required. I believe this is also gonna be at Norton. Some of these are also you're gonna see the similar things for Norton. We have the same add alternates at Norton, you have the same FSC certified, I have the same sump pumps. This one a little more specific to North End. We've excluded an arborist.
We do have a pit in the elevator.
We have a pit, there's no dedicated sump pump that's part of it.
GMP excludes arborist, herpetologist, and/or archaeologist services. So, we didn't buy any of that, hopefully we don't run into any. I'm pretty sure we exhausted everything out there. Alright, 30, this was just a clarification, this was based on scope reviews and whatnot. All the handrails in the building are gonna be made out of stainless steel. It's a satin finish, I believe. There's some notes on the finish plans, and the note says, all stair components to be custom powder coat finish by manufacturer, and it's to match certain paint colors. So, I'm clarifying that only means the guardrail system, which are these Viva prefabricated railings. They don't pertain, this powder coating finish does not pertain to the handrails, the metal stair stringers, the stair risers, underpans, and stair landings. In other words, all the exposed steel that you would see, that was not meant to be custom powder coated finish. So I'm just trying to clear up that note.
It's identified correctly elsewhere. There was an erroneous note on the interiors drawings.
But it is painted.
It's painted, that's just not custom powder coat finish. Alright, 31, the first clarification will be for both North End and Norton, the second one only applies to North End. So millwork clarifications, again, these are all just based on scope reviews. All millwork materials that are not indicated to be painted shall be furnished shop finished, meaning the millworker is gonna stain in polyurethane and finish everything in their shop, what's shown as stained. Field touch-up will be applied to exposed field cut surfaces. So that's just clarifying that anything that the mill worker is providing that's stained is gonna be shop finished and they're gonna install it out in the field. WD2 and WD3, which is on this drawing I0.10, it's identified on this finish, in the finish list, the materials list, as rift sawn maple flooring. And I guess you can't get that, or they didn't get a price for it. They priced quarter sawn maple flooring. So that's what we bought, quarter sawn maple flooring. That means anything. I'm just clarifying that. Okay, so this 32 is what you guys did not see last night. So we had a pre-bid RFI. We have two drawings that show corridor elevations. One drawing shows wall tile, some, tack boards, just anything to do with finishes, maybe some acoustical wall panels. And the other elevation really just shows painted walls. It just all shows up as paint. And then there's a note that says, for all the finishes that we want on these elevations, go see that other drawing. So the wall tile was like the biggest scope where our wall tiling contractor missed it. Anyhow, we found out that it was just it could have been clearer, so that's what I'm doing. We had Tecton clarified for me exactly which elevation on the sheet that didn't have the finishes shown, which elevation ties to the elevation that has the finish, so that we're crystal clear on which material is going to go on which elevation. And that's what I'm clarifying here is A6.63 is the one that shows all painted walls, and then A6.62 is the one that shows all the materials. And it has to be in reverse order. So if you look on one drawing, when you're going in this direction, on this drawing you go in that direction. So it just gets a little complicated. So hopefully the way that I described it is clear. I did bring with me 11 by 17 drawings to further show it. If anybody wants to take a deeper dive into this afterwards, just so you can see it. But what I'm trying to do is say, this elevation matches this elevation matches this elevation, so that everybody's on the same page.
There's no change there, it's already clearly indicated on the drawing, it's just a little confusing the way.
It's a little confusing, and Norton is the same thing. I have the same issue at Norton. Just, at least Norton, we had wall tiles shown, just wasn't exactly the same as the other one.
Alright, again, I'll clarify. The finished plans, the finished schedules, all indicate this. The elevations, detail it as Laurel discussed with reference to the other interior elevations, clarified as an RFI during the bidding process. So this was not an unknown item to the bidders.
Alright, so that's that one. Again, I have stuff to, if anybody wants to look at afterwards. Alright, 33, we have what's called a vapor retarder. It's a special membrane that is specified in section 07-2100. It's a smart, it's like a humidity thing. It reacts with humidity, huh?
Certainty membrane.
That's not ringing a bell.
Is that
for the
It was
walls?
called smart
It's
vapor.
for the interior, the winter warm side of the building envelope, we have vapor barrier on the inside.
Yeah, inside of the studs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the inside of the outside wall. So it's a vapor retarder. It reacts with the humidity. Somehow it lets the humidity in and out. So it's shown. What I'm saying is I'm clarifying that we're installing it per the details. This material is shown overlapping with all other air barriers. So you have your typical vapor barrier membrane that's on the outside of the outside wall that wraps into the window opening. This vapor retarder that's on the inside wants to tie into it. This vapor retarder wants to tie into the roof barrier membrane, and it wants to tie into the vapor barrier that's under the concrete slab. So it's a whole system on the inside. So all we're saying is that we're gonna install it per the details, and that this installation requires that everybody has to be chemically compatible with each other, and that a warranty is achievable with these tying in of all these systems. And if there was metal transition strips that needed to be installed to chemically or thermally isolate these products, then we didn't include that. So we're building it per the design. And we've talked with Tecton, we're just moving forward.
So you're not concerned with it,
I was,
but you're not anymore.
but I'm not, cause they're.
I'm less so.
Yeah,
What?
I'm less concerned than
Right.
Laurel.
I'm the only one.
Well, she
I
says
was
she's
worried
not
about it.
anymore, so
I
how can you
wasn't.
be less? You must be
Well,
you're
she's not anymore
an
because,
advocate
because
now.
of my lack of concern. I swayed her to the dark side.
No, I'm only asking because it sounds like this now just says, we're gonna build this, we're gonna install this per the plans.
Right.
And there's no questions or concerns because everything is just fine and we're all set.
No, we're more.
It's kinda
more-
what it sounds like to me.
No,
That's
we're
why
more
I'm
saying
asking.
that, you know, we always wanna make sure that all products can work with each other, and what we're saying here is that per the plans and specs, and Tecton does their due diligence, we're sure that these are all gonna work together, but if there's an instance where there didn't, and we have to put in a metal transition strip, we didn't carry that in our budget.
Right, cause I haven't done this before, I haven't done this, this is a new technology, so that's why I was suspect of it. I haven't done this before, where you had something on the inside wall with the outside and everything's tying together, cause I saw a video where, what happens if they chemically, they just make a mess. So that's what I'm going by, I saw the propaganda video.
She went on the internet.
So,
Is that your review?
Was it on YouTube?
No, it was from ABBA.
Justin, the internet says there's a problem, you know what I mean?
It's
just the old energy, and Dennis, you may be able to correct me here if I'm wrong. The older energy codes always had this requirement, but had a clarification that the vapor barrier, the interior face, would either be, either a coat of paint or the face of drywall would satisfy for it. In the subsequent iterations in the energy code, it has a more strict requirement for what this vapor barrier does.
Okay, 34, I'm taking back what I wrote in the exclusions of phase 1, so GMP includes all on-site management costs necessary to receive all phase 1 electrical materials and equipment, because last time we didn't know if the project was gonna keep going, so we said, we had excluded last time saying, hey, if we're not continuing going, owner, you're gonna have to handle all this, so now we'll take it. 35, except as otherwise provided for in the bid documents, and we do have the turtle nesting area. No cost nor scope of work is included addressing the protection of these listed species. This was that ecological report that they did way back when. 36 says GMP excludes responsibility for providing videotaping of the training that is described in section 017900. We will coordinate schedule for training and demonstration with the commissioning agent, who will be, if they're allowed to, will be providing this videotaping. So apparently the trainers don't like to be videotaped.
Yeah, we should check that though, because I don't know if that's in the commissioning agent's scope that they're videotaping. So
Or if they may not even be allowed to do it.
well, yeah, but even if they're allowed to, we can't commit to something that might not be in their scope.
So to me, I just wanna cross that last.
So the challenge we've run into in the last several jobs is that the vendors that are supplying the equipment will provide a generic training video specific to that piece of equipment, but will not allow you to videotape their technician in the field actually performing the training in the field. I actually had a vendor or a technician walk out in the middle, like as soon as the cell phone came up to videotape, he stood up, put his stuff away, walked out. We said, we won't videotape. He said, I'm gone, and wouldn't even entertain it, and left the premises.
Liability issues?
Yeah, that's what it comes out of is there was apparently, my understanding is what I was told is that there was some electrical piece of equipment they were training on it. The guy made a mistake, whatever, got injured on it. Now that makes the company liable for him, and so now they just won't allow in-field videoing of the actual
Now they
training.
can lie, cause there's no video.
Right.
I'm sure there's a YouTube
Exactly.
clip.
Hey Justin, let's go for the specs.
Videotaping.
Yeah, I think I had mentioned that a while ago because I was getting it on some of my jobs and I was like, this is great. And then 3 technicians retire and some new people come on board and they have the training, you can look at it to get up to speed without hoping somebody remembers to train and whatnot.
We'll still get videos. It'll just be, a standard company video of how it'll be specific to the piece of equipment, and it'll be similar to what is shown in the field. It just won't be a live from the field video.
Okay.
And it's-
Something that their attorney has checked out.
That's acceptable.
Yes, yeah.
So I'll change that to say, CM will coordinate schedule for training and demonstration with commissioning agent and owner. Does this way you guys can have people there if you want. Okay, here's the tariffs. GMP excludes costs imposed by tariffs that may be assessed on products and equipment after the date of bids received. In other words, when people submitted their bids, they were based on the price at that time, so we don't know if there's anything that's gonna happen
If
retroactively.
there is a tariff, do we absorb it, or does the vendor absorb it? Or does that insurance policy we got absorb it?
We don't have an insurance policy.
Well, see, construction insurance, we,
That's like if the building falls down before it's done.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, village risk.
Yeah, I'm not, I wasn't gonna do it with an allowance, cause I don't know if it's gonna hit.
To answer your question, Greg, the owner will absorb
the
it.
owner, that's
Yeah,
us,
because
so
they didn't
that could be
put
a
it in the price.
substantial hit.
Absolutely.
I mean,
So,
yeah, if it's 25%
signed
and
the
1
contracts
point,
already.
yeah.
I don't, does it happen retroactively even?
no,
That's what I was thinking, once you have a contract,
once you,
It depends when the
It's-
steel is
it's-
imported.
Right,
Right.
it's when you cross
You know,
the
is it
border,
in, right,
basically.
is it in the US already, the
'Cause
steel we purchase?
we have our steel contractors on
Right.
board,
once
right?
they sign the contract, that's the price.
So
Period,
even if tariffs come in,
not a problem.
Should be
They're
there, it
sweating.
should be the vendor problem.
Unless they come in on anything that we have.
They're not gonna call that a force majeure, I mean, that's not the type of thing that they would call that, that would be the only thing that would give
is
them
it really just the steel? Well,
Well, steel's the big one.
I'm
Steel-
most concerned about the technology, but we're
Well,
not
it
gonna
could
deal
be
with it
anything,
for a while.
yeah,
Yeah.
all the technology stuff.
Yeah.
Even furniture can be coming in from China or
Lighting.
whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it could hit almost everything.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know how tariffs work,
But once we have a contract, that's it, that's the price.
they can't come back after that?
They
They have a
can,
contract.
but we have the right to say no.
Sounds cool.
Well, I don't know, we'd have to see.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's the way I've always
Yeah,
interpreted
but it's
it.
no different than the distributor raised their prices, so I want more money from you. And it's, all it is a price increase.
Yeah.
And they're coming back asking us to absorb it. You've got a contract that says you're covered.
Millwork's coming from Canada for North End.
Yeah.
Oh.
They didn't exclude it. And where's the wood coming from?
Yeah, but they didn't know about it when the bid was coming in. That's the other thing. Right.
Well,
So these are not standing tariffs that we know about, these are
You're right.
anything new that's
They-
being
They
instituted.
could withdraw their
Yeah.
bid, but
Right.
if they.
They knew
sign
it
the
was
contract,
possible a long
that's
time
the
ago,
price.
when the campaign started. It's no different. Until it's instituted, it's not instituted.
Like South Canada.
Alright, so how do I word this then?
Could be its own
Um,
territory.
This is one of the
I think if
items we
anybody
wanna
opposes
jump
a
into.
tariff, we ought to
I think it's something our
revisit their
attorney needs to
contract.
take a look at,
Alright,
And we'll come to an agreement on the language or.
yeah,
But,
cause I have no idea how that would be, it's
Yeah.
beyond our control.
Do we have any
It's all
well, I'm-
federal, depends on what President Trump decides that morning when he
Right,
wakes
so
up.
what they're gonna do
and
tomorrow and.
I don't
If
think the
anything,
courts
I
are gonna
would
have any
say
decision
The
about
date
it.
of bid.
That's
time we
what
build
you might
this-
have build the
I don't
school.
think the
Yeah.
courts are
Date of
gonna touch
contract
tariffs, I mean, there's
That
pretty
I
much.
think it is
As
discretionary.
of-
and-
Yeah.
and, yeah.
Contract
I think
signed.
we'll find out it is what it
Executed
is.
contract?
It's not like an act of God or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just who's gonna pay it.
Yeah.
Cause you could have,
The guy that we signed a contract with, it
The
says it's
millwork
gonna
guy
supply
come
this
back and
for
say,
that
Still at
price.
this price, yeah.
Yep.
I'm not
And
sure
some of
about
these
my
are going
pricing
back and
on
forth, you know, there was
one
gonna be a
take
tariff
number,
against
that sort of
Canada, and
stuff.
then no, we'll hold
Right.
it off
It's
while
all
we're, you know,
speculation though. Until it
Right.
happens, it doesn't
Yeah.
happen. It's all
That's-
speculation.
Yeah, that's why it's like, we
So,
didn't tell
you
them
know,
carrying
it's-
this.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
we're
think
not,
it's
we're not
reasonable to
carrying
say
any
that
type
you
of
guys will
allowance or,
pay it.
or contingency or anything else to cover any of those potential tariffs.
Alright, so I'll
is what
change
we're
the
saying.
language to say GMP excludes costs imposed by tariffs that may be assessed on products and equipment after the date of executed contract. That would probably be more,
but either way, I'd like our attorney to look at that.
Yeah.
yeah.
and then the last one is GMP schedule and costs are based upon receiving approval as GMP no later than February 27th. So that's the one that's in 2 weeks, and our north end bids expire, you know, right around the corner that following Monday, like on March 3rd. Cause these bids came in on December 3rd, so that's why you can wait till for the 2 weeks, but then you're gonna have to act at the next meeting.
Yeah, we're scheduled back at the next meeting, that shouldn't be an issue.
And then I can present Norton at the next meeting, and that, we have like 2 weeks, right, 2 weeks grace, cause those bids came in December 18th, so in theory, you'd have to come in on the early March meeting though. But,
Yeah, I mean, the committee potentially, I don't know what people feel here, but I assume Norton is gonna be very, very similar.
Very similar, there's some things that, it's gonna have the same similar items, just worded a little bit differently, but
So
yeah,
I-
it's mostly the
So
same
I
issue.
could see at our next meeting approving this document, you going over the differences between this document and the Norton document. And if the committee feels comfortable with it, you potentially could approve it at that meeting.
Yeah, and what I'll do is I'll keep the same numbering, and if it's not applicable at Norton, I will say NA, not applicable, not applicable, so you kinda see what's different just by doing a side-by-side.
Right.
And then I'll just add in if there's anything specific that's new to Norton.
When are you gonna send to Norton?
I would love to do it next week, I still have 3 problem childs, at least I have 2 problem childs. And I gotta check on this tiling at Norton, so I would
You
like
make
to
it
get them
like not the
wrapped up.
26th?
Oh, no, I'm gonna try and do it next week.
Okay.
Maybe in the middle of the week,
Yeah, well, the earlier you can do it, the better chance there is
The
that
middle
people
of
feel
next week,
comfortable
you know, before the end of
approving it
next
at that
week.
meeting. If people don't feel comfortable, then we'd have to put it off to the
Yeah.
March meeting.
I have a question. Justin's been very responsive to our concerns and comments, but I'm just curious, does the design team have any concerns of your own about these 38 items of assumptions?
No, I mean, most of them arose, at least the architectural ones, the ones that are not kind of your standard GMP clarifications or exclusions, they arose out of the scope reviews. And we had an opportunity to review with Arcadis and ONG before this came to you, so we're comfortable.
Thank you.
Laura, could you send the electronic version of the new one? Since all we have is the old one, minor changes, but
Yep.
I wanna make sure that everyone's looking at the same data.
All right, anybody have any other questions? Just got to see it, okay.
Can I just, I'm sorry, interrupt any other questions, but since the schedule was part of this and we discussed quite a bit about the substantial completion date, I just wanna identify that, as Ryan had mentioned about kind of a phased turnover of areas of the building, just to identify some of those areas. So there's area D, C, B, and A.
On page 30.
Yeah, on the very last
30.
page of the schedule, on page 63, you'll see the closeout. And I just wanted to highlight construction complete in 2 of the areas for May 14th and May 21st, followed by area A and B, which are the 16th. So that kind of bolsters the description of there will be areas of the building that will be complete before that July.
And areas C and D are the classroom wings, that's where the heavy lift is with all the furniture.
Can we get into an insurance issue of some sort if we're moving everything in there ahead of time, like, what's it covered by?
Oh, well, you got
Because
the
we don't
builder's
have
risk.
insurance, cause we don't have,
You have builder's risk all the way until the regular insurance kicks in.
what does the builder's risk cover, like loss of, like somebody stealing?
Furniture or something.
Not furniture.
That's what I'm saying, and we're moving all the furniture in
I
there.
believe that your property insurance would probably cover that.
But I don't think you get the property insurance until you like complete or you get the CO.
When would property insurance start taking over?
Well, we would notify our broker when we wanted to take over.
So you could overlap if you want.
Oh, yeah.
And if it was
So
just for
long
that
as
You can't
you-
time.
just, you can't just get property insurance on something that's under construction still though, right?
Well, the property's being moved into the building. I'll ask the broker, but if we're moving items into the building that we want insured, we'll just pretty much pay a premium. I mean, I would think that they're gonna wanna make sure the building can be secured, or that the furniture, if it's, you know, being stored before it's entered into the building, is secured, so they'll do their due diligence. But I'll check.
Because it
I
goes
mean,
from
we
a,
got time on that question.
right, and it goes from a builder's risk policy to a strict property insurance, so. It's not like we're providing the builder's risk, and it's actually a transfer of insurance from our builder's risk policy with a different carrier to your property insurance, so it's the same, the same carrier, right? So,
Yeah, I just don't know where you draw a line, like on the floor of the building that says this part of it's covered by this and that part's covered by that, cause something's gonna happen near the line and then.
I don't know if it's so
Looking
much
at each other.
like the line in the room as much as the item in the room, right? Like with the,
Yeah.
cause the way I hear you describing it, it sounds like We're just getting insurance on the items.
You
the
would put a
furniture
rider
we're
on
moving
for
in.
that period of time for these particular things.
Why don't we just ask?
It's no different than the property insurance that we have now on our existing building.
I'll ask.
I'll check.
They'll come back to us. We'll put you on a next agenda or the future agenda.
I needed something to do. I finished all my work today.
Jeff, you hear that? He has nothing to do. Any other comments or questions or? All right, Laurel, thank you very much. This clearly was a lot of work. People, please go through it. If you have any questions or anything, please get back to us and let us know, so that we can come to the next meeting and approve it. And then hopefully Laura will get the Norton documentation to us, I would guess on Monday, so.
No. Next week.
Oh, that's Monday, it's next week.
Do you want that, whatever we're gonna give you as backup for the MEP?
Yeah.
You wanna do that like as a separate email or something? like
Yeah,
ahead of
yeah,
time?
yeah, yep. Yeah, I'll work on that tomorrow.
And we'll send that around to everybody. That seems to be the only real big question as we've gone through this. Do we want to
We haven't had
pay that extra
in a month or so.
with the amount of supervision that's there
Oh,
already?
initially, they're still there, but they'll proceed.
Yeah, well, the terrace,
Of the-
are you gonna talk to Jeff D'Onofrio on that? Do you want me to?
He,
Not the-
did I send
Yeah.
You sent him a copy.
there last night, right? Terrence was in last night.
Right,
Definitely
right.
CC him, but I
Thank you,
didn't.
that's the map I could do.
I'm sorry.
I CC'd Jeff when I sent this out to you.
Right,
And I think the terrace was in there,
yeah.
but I didn't tell him, go look at that,
Yeah,
so.
no, and that's just it, we need to specifically say, you know, take a look at this particular item.
We can reach out to them. Are you in that meeting?
No, but I can do it from.
If you want to find, if not, I'll send him a note. So it makes no difference.
You can send it to me and I'll send it to Jeff. I communicate with Jeff.
Oh, you're not allowed to record it anyway, because the insurance.
I mean, if you want, I can just take this and forward it to him and say, hey, Jeff, there's a question.
Yeah, he has the GMP,
I know, but we gotta select, you gotta point to it and say, you know, there's a question on where it doesn't care.
Yeah,
Recording it.
yeah, if you wanna do that for me, that'd be great.
Alright, so Rich, you're gonna do that?
Yeah.
Fell asleep last
And get back to me, let me know.
Yep.
So I just wanted to give everybody an update on construction real quick. Just so at the north end, we are getting about somewhere between 1 and 1.5 wells in a day for the geothermal system. So we're going very well there with that. They're doing a good job there. And tomorrow we'll be pouring the first concrete at Norton.
Oh, that's ahead of time.
There's footings on there, so
Very
yeah.
nice. So we got all the rebar in there?
Rebar's in, was inspected today by Tom Lozier as well as Tescon, and we got the thumbs up to move ahead with a good section of D-building.
Okay, when are they gonna start pouring at the north end?
They're gonna start next week with getting the excavation and formwork done. I don't know if they'll actually pour next week or the following week, so they're, you know, some of this weather threw us for a little snap, and so, that is weather dependent. We were actually supposed to pour it today at Norton, and because of the weather this morning, they made the call earlier in the week to push it to tomorrow, so.
We're gonna have a lot of this kind of weather over the next
Yeah,
several days.
so
So to give you the context.
we'll work, you know,
14 is
we
what I
absorb
was
that, I mean,
referencing,
it's just
so
a matter
read
of,
that
you know, just
first.
pushing a
Number
day here and
14
there,
was
so.
Ian, so
But positive things going on in both projects.
Read that first.
Thanks, Ryan.
That's what they gave, that's the direction we gave.
Anything else? Then I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved, Chris, second?
Second.
Jeff, all those in favor? Opposed? Thank you, everyone.